Join me on the stage are the representatives of NGOs sponsoring this Geneva Summit to present this year's Geneva Summit Courage Award together with me. Thank you. It has been an honor to be a part of Geneva Summit over the past decade. Our annual assembly is a unique event held in parallel with the UN Human Rights Council, which ensures that critical voices from oppressive regimes across the globe have a forum to stand up and speak truth to power. Today, we have heard inspiring testimonies by courageous men and women from around the world. They put their lives on the line to defend human dignity, freedom, and equality in their countries of origin. We meet today at a time when the Chinese government's repression is at an all-time high. This month marks the 60th anniversary of the Tibetan national uprising. It is fitting, therefore, that this year's award goes to a human rights hero who risked everything to shine a light on the abuses of the Chinese regime in Tibet. Dhondup Wangchen is a Tibetan filmmaker who showed extraordinary courage when he exposed the reality of Tibetan life under Chinese rule through his groundbreaking documentary, Leaving Fear Behind. This 25-minute film was described by the New York Times as an unadorned indictment of the Chinese government. The story of Dhondup Wangchen began in 2006 when he and Golub Jimmy thought to create a documentary. They interviewed ordinary Tibetan people on their views of the Dalai Lama and of the Chinese government in the year leading up to the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Anticipating potential reprisals by the Chinese government, Dhondup Wangchen moved his wife, Lamo Tso, to India together with their 4 children before creating the film. In the winter of 2007 to 2008, Dhondup Wangchen traveled through remote areas of eastern Tibet to conduct 108 detailed interviews. He collected 35 hours of footage over the course of 5 months. He did all of this with only a cheap video camera and no professional training in journalism or filmmaking. After the footage was smuggled out to his cousin in Switzerland for editing and production, Leaving Fear Behind was released on August 6, 2008, days before the start of the Olympics. But at that point, Dhondup Wangchen, along with Golub Jimmy, had already been in secret detention since the end of March for subversion charges related to the documentary. After several interrogations and torture while in detention, Dhondup Wangchen was sentenced to 6 years in prison by the Chinese authorities. Following his release from prison, Dhondup Wangchen was kept under heavy surveillance. In December 2017, he finally fled Tibet for an arduous and risky escape to the United States, where he was granted asylum and currently resides. Since he escaped from China's surveillance about a year ago, Wangchen has continued to speak out against the gross human rights violations committed by the Chinese government. He has said, "Tibet is a prison. Every year the conditions get worse. More restrictions on traveling, practicing religions and culture, and severe limits on freedom of the press." Against this backdrop, our honorees' critical efforts to expose China's abuses, despite severe risks for himself and his family, have become that much more important. To so many Tibetans, Dhondup Wangchen's work allowed the truth of the Chinese violations in Tibet to reach the rest of the world at a time when Beijing was in the international spotlight for the Olympic Games. By giving a voice to the voiceless, Dhondup Wangchen truly exemplifies the values of the Geneva Summit for human rights and democracy. For all of these reasons, I'm proud, together with my colleagues here, to present the 2019 Geneva Summit Courage Award to Dhondup Wangchen. As the inscription reads, "For inspiring the world with your extraordinary courage in defense of freedom, democracy, and universal human rights." Dhondup Wangchen, please come forward.
Dear representatives of government, non-governmental organizations, Tibet supporters, each and every one of you who are present here today, Dashi Delek. It is great honor to accept this award on behalf of my fellow comrades, and thank you all from bottom of my heart for bestowing me this year's award. It brings me immense pleasure and pride. I have never ever imagined that a day like this will come. This day feels like a dream to me. I stand here today because of the support that I received from international community who firmly stands for human rights and democracy. Accepting the award in front of you all, breathing the air of freedom, sharing the story of the hardest part of my life. Words are not enough to share the happiness of the moment I feel here today. In the real sense, this award belongs to each one of you, because even in the most difficult times, without hesitating the challenges ahead, you all have stood by us courageously and firmly facing one of the most oppressive and authoritarian region, China, that is growing powerful and dominating. This award represents your courage, and I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for all your support, for your unwavering courage. When the Chinese police initially detained me, put me in the detention center. I was handcuffed for 7 days and 8 nights and forced me to sit on the wooden chair. They put electric button on my neck and I was beaten and tortured severely. I was forced to confess without informing what crime I had committed. It was so painful that no words are enough to share the extent of torture inflicted on me. I thought I was either going to die due to torture or would be martyred by them. In those darkest days, I strongly felt it is better to die than to live. Even in those darkest moments, my only flicker of hope was that through my documentary, the international community would know the reality of Tibet and how Tibetans actually feel about the Chinese repressive rule in Tibet. I felt I had finally achieved what I wanted to do and I was ready to die peacefully because I know that in the free world, you all will continue to care for us Tibetans and that in the face of adversity, your courage will take this Tibetan struggle forward. International community supports keep me alive. International community supports keep my faith alive. Without the international community support that I received, I would have been long dead. I thought I already knew how important basic freedoms and rights are for a human being, but I realized the true meaning of freedom and get sense of how freedom is more important than one's life after I was released from the prison. Life for a Tibetan political prisoner after coming out of prison is no different from being in prison. I was under constant surveillance. I could not meet my friends and relatives because it would put them in trouble. It is difficult to find jobs for political prisoners. Political prisoners are deprived of financial and medical subsidies. Former political prisoners are not permitted to travel within nearby Tibetan areas without permission from Chinese authorities. In short, the moment Tibetan is labeled with political accusation and imprisoned, the person is just a breathing dead body. That is when I really understood the importance of freedom and democracy. That is when I understood why 153 Tibetans have self-immolated in Tibet. Freedom is truly more precious than one's life. When a person is deprived his freedom and rights, what makes him human, there is nothing left in this life. When I was arrested, I thought I will be kidnapped and martyred and no one would know what happened to me. I never thought that I would be able to escape. Before I was detained and disappeared, I even recorded my last words in the documentary film because I wanted the world to know and inform the real situation of Tibetan political prisoners. I'm so happy and feel glad that I'm free now. I can't believe this. It feels like a dream. Because of the international community support from government and organization who stands for human rights and democracy, I am alive and standing in front of you. I have seen both hell and earth. I'm free now. I'll continue to work for the Tibetan inside Tibet by raising awareness about the real condition in Tibet. I finally request all to continue supporting the cause of Tibet. The courage you have shown yesterday changed my today. And the courage we show today will change the future of Tibetans. Therefore, please, let us not give up. Soon, a day will come. A day will come when Tibetans inside Tibet will become master of their own destiny and breathe the air of freedom. Please, let us work together. Let us work together for that day to come. It is not far. Thank you.